sweating hands, I wiped them on my apron for the 100th time while glancing around the shiny kitchen of my soon-to-open diner. Everything needed to be flawless. I had invested my entire life, savings, heart, and soul into this place. My phone buzzed as I checked the walk-in fridge again. It was Sophia. I answered, clenching my gut. Sophia said, "Jessica, darling." Her sweet voice rang out from the speaker. "I have the most wonderful news." I got ready. "Which is, Sophia?" "I've sent an invitation to your opening night to all of my country club pals. Wouldn't that be amazing?" My mouth fell open. "Everyone, Sophia? Too many people there. Remember that we're trying to keep it small?" With a tinkling sound that made my teeth tense, she laughed. "Oh, what foolishness. More is always better. You ought to be giving me gratitude for bringing in business." I squeezed my nasal bridge. "Please, Sophia. Our guest list is quite exclusive. I'm unable to—" "Jessica!" Neil stormed into the kitchen, his voice boomy. "You are there. Mom called just now. Isn't it wonderful that her pals are visiting?" I was overcome with surprise when I fixed my gaze on my husband's face. "Neil, we discussed this. We decided on a modest entrance." His hand was waved off dismissively. "It'll be all right, honey, come on. Mom is an experienced worker." A familiar ache in my chest surfaced. "Set your mother's phone to speaker," I uttered in a firm tone. Neil nodded, appearing perplexed. "Sophia, we just can't fit all of your friends in," I responded, trying to maintain an even tone. "I appreciate your enthusiasm. The list of guests is finalized." "But these are very influential people, Jessica," Sophia gushed. "Consider the relationships you will establish." Neil added, "Yeah, honey, that could be great for business." I counted to 10 while I closed my eyes. Neil and Sophia were quiet and waiting when I opened them. "No," I firmly said. "I apologize, but no. This is the night I'm opening my restaurant. I won't let things fall apart at the last minute since I've planned every little thing." Sophia became icy in her voice. "I see. I guess I'll just have to break the bad news to everyone. It's truly a pity, considering everything we've done for you." The call ended. Neil's expression was a mix of disbelief and disappointment as he gaped at me. "How could you, Jessica? My mother was helping." I positioned my shoulders squarely. "Remember, Neil, this is our dream, mine as well. I don't need your help, but—" Jake, my main chef, popped his head in the open kitchen door. "Chef, there is an issue with the delivery of the fruit. Heirloom tomatoes are limited there." I nodded, closed my eyes, and inhaled deeply. "I'll be right there." I turned back to face Neil and replied, "We'll talk about this later. I have to manage a restaurant right now." I heard Neil murmur, "Mom's not going to like this," as I followed Jake outside. With my hand on the door frame, I stopped in the entryway. "Maybe it's time your mother realized she can't always get what she wants," I remarked without looking back. With me, the door closed, leaving Neil alone himself in the kitchen. My mind raced as I marched towards the cargo dock. This was the day that would make my life the happiest, the result of years of sacrifice and laborious effort. Rather, I had a sense of vulnerability as I attempted to strike a balance between my aspirations and the demands of my spouse's family. But I straightened my back as I went outside into the cool, crisp air. This was my chance, my restaurant, and I was going to make it work, whether Sophia approved or not, come hell or high water. I was knee-deep in preparation work for the restaurant's soft opening the day following my run-in with Sophia. While I meticulously cut the vegetables, my thoughts drifted back to all the times I had gone above and beyond to satisfy my lavish in-laws. Neil looked sheepish as he sauntered in through the open kitchen door. "Hey, sweetheart, have a moment, please?" I put my knife down and used my apron to wipe my hands. "What is it, Neil?" He shuffled his feet, his eyes barely meeting mine. Oh, Mom called once again. She wants to make up for yesterday because she feels so bad about it. A suspicious eyebrow went up. Oh, how is she going to go about doing that? Neil's expression lightened. A pre-opening cocktail reception at her country club is being offered by her. Isn't that fantastic? My heart fell. Neil, we are unable to afford this. That's not a big deal. He cut off, dismissively waving his hand. Mom promises to take care of everything. She is apologizing in this way. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes. And what's the catch? Neil had a perplexed expression. Catch? Nothing is at risk. It's simply taken care of by Mom. With a sour laugh, I laughed. Neil, your mother has never taken action without a reason. Do you recall our wedding? His forehead wrinkled. What about our event? She hung it over our heads for years after insisting on paying for it. She would always mention how much she spent on our beautiful day whenever she wanted something. Neil's expression darkened. Jessica, please, that is unfair. Mom is only attempting to assist. I resumed my preparation work, using more force than necessary when I struck the chopping board with my knife. Such as when she contributed to our home's down payment? Or how she assisted us when our car broke down by letting us use hers? What are you referring to? Neil raised his voice and inquired. I whirled around and glared at him with my knife. We wind up paying for your mother's assistance twofold every time she does. She made us pay her back with interest for the house. She requested that we drive her around for months in the automobile. Neil's complexion flushed. That is absurd. Mother would never... Open those eyes, Neil, I yelled, hitting the counter with my palm. Your mother is trying to control us, and you're too blind to see it. With the exception of the freezer's hum, the kitchen fell silent. Neil gaped at me as he stared. He murmured, I need some air, turned on his heel, and ran out of the kitchen. I attempted to calm my breathing and leaned against the counter, my hands trembling. My phone rang, and it was Sophia's SMS. I really hope you'll think twice about the cocktail party, Jessica, my dear. After everything that Jonathan and I have done for you and Neil, it would mean a great deal to us. I held the phone hard, white knuckles appearing on my fingers. I pressed the call button before I could stop myself twice. On the first ring, Sophia answered. Jessica, what a delight to hear from you. Sophia, I said, my tone detached. I appreciate the offer, but we won't be needing a cocktail party. But sweetheart, consider the exposure and the relationships, she mused. This celebration is necessary for you. Taking a deep breath, I prepared myself. Sophia, no. I want you to quit meddling in my personal affairs in life. The person on the other end of the line took a sharp gasp. I beg your excuse? You heard me, I said again, my voice growing louder. I'm over being tricked. I'm over the self-serving charity and guilt trips. You must either treat me equally moving forward or not at all. Sophia's tone became cold. I see. If that's the case, we might want to reevaluate our financial commitment to your small business. My heart felt icy. What investment? Oh, you were unaware, Neil. We have been assisting him with part of the initial expenses. However, if you're so keen to shove us aside... The call ended. With my phone in hand, I stood there, letting the ramifications of Sophia's comments sink in. Behind my back, Neil had been embezzling money from his parents. Lies and deceit served as the cornerstone of our restaurant dream. Looking around my haven, the kitchen, I saw that nothing was what it seemed. The smooth opening was only the beginning, I realized as it drew nearer. Entering our bedroom, I saw Neil comfortably curled up on the bed, idly browsing through his phone. I murmured, "We need to speak," in a voice that was shaking from barely controlled rage. Neil gasped as he looked up. "What's wrong?" Your mother just told me about the financial commitment you two made in the restaurant, I yelled. Care to explain? His countenance turned pallid. Jessica, I can explain. Save it, I interrupted him. How could you act in such a way behind my back? Neil, this was meant to be our dream, our eatery. With a hand sweeping through his hair, he sat up. I was left with no option. Our finances were very low, so Mom offered her assistance. I gave a sour laugh. And you didn't think to tell me? Your wife? Your partner? Neil shot a defiant look into his eyes. Well, something had to be done by someone. You were blind to the fact that we were drowning because you were engrossed in your tiny culinary fantasy. I felt his words smack me. My imaginary little chef? Do you believe that to be what this is? Jessica, come on, he mocked. During a recession, you're opening a fancy restaurant. It's not precisely a sensible business strategy. I was staring at this man and could hardly believe it was me. Neil, what happened to you? You once had faith in us, in me. He slumped his shoulders. Jessica, reality happened. Remember that I lost my job? Yes, I do remember, I answered in a harsh tone. You also mentioned that you would look for another one. How is your quest for a job going? Neil's complexion flushed. It's not really that easy. The market is currently difficult. Really? I made a challenge. Because I seem to remember you turning down 3 job offers in the past months. He averted his eyes from me. They weren't a suitable fit. No, I said, as I began to realize that they weren't as luxurious as your previous position. Neil, you're not seeking work. You're waiting for someone to provide you with the ideal role with abandon. Neil got to his feet, balling his fists. That is unfair. All along, I've been rooting for your dream. I chuckled without humor. Lying to me in order to support me? By secretly obtaining funds from your mother? He exclaimed, I did what I was required to do. Someone had to be practical. Practical? I fired back. Were you able to tell your wife a lie? To undo all that we have labored for? Neil's expression twisted. I was trying to help. No, I said in a calm yet assertive tone. Just like your mother, you were attempting to exert authority over me. I'm over being in charge, I guess. As I turned to walk away, Neil seized my arm. Jessica, please hold off. We are able to resolve this. I released his hold. Neil, there's nothing to solve. You choose what to do. I'm doing mine right now. What's that supposed to mean? Called Neil after me as I left the bedroom. I stopped at the door without looking back. Neil, it implies I'm through. With everything. With your lies, with your mother's deceit. With or without you, I'm going to turn my restaurant into a success. I tried to recover my breath by leaning against the wall and slamming the door behind me, my heart racing. My phone rang and it was Jake, my main cook, texting me. We've got an issue, chef. Just now the health inspector paid us an unexpected visit. He wants to see you right away. I fought back tears of frustration as I closed my eyes. This would undoubtedly occur presently. I inhaled deeply, straightened my back, and made my way to the door. I had a dream to guard and a restaurant to defend. My thoughts were racing as I drove to the restaurant. How could things have collapsed so swiftly? It felt like a faraway memory. The man I married, the one who had won me over with his charm and ambition. There was a stranger in his place, happy to ride my coattails and use his mother's money. As I entered the parking lot, I prepared myself for the struggle that lay ahead. I saw my reflection in the window as I made my way to the door. I appeared determined in spite of everything. I said to myself in a whisper, "You can do this, Jessica. It's time to take control of your own story." I then pushed open the door, prepared to take on any obstacles that were in my way. My rules, my restaurant. And nobody was going to get in my way. Not even a surprise health inspection. Not Neil. Not Sophia. Like a storm approaching, the day of the restaurant's debut loomed large before me. Smelling faintly of herbs and the hum of appliances, I stood in the kitchen, trying to calm the gnawing dread in my gut. The sound of Chef Jake's voice interrupted my dream. "The last delivery of wine has just arrived. Where would you like it?" I forced myself to return to the present with a blink. "Let's go check it." I couldn't get rid of the sense of impending disaster as we made our way to the storage area. I could still hear Sophia's threat regarding her investment, and Neil's betrayal hurt like a fresh cut. My phone beeped as we were halfway through inventory. On the screen, Sophia's name flickered. After hesitating, I responded. Sophia spoke in a sweet voice. "Jessica, darling," as she radiated through the speaker. "I hope our brief conversation has been reconsidered. After all, the opening is tomorrow." I clenched my hold on the phone. "Sophia, I've told you." Now. She cut herself off. "Let's not rush things. I would be so sad if something went wrong on your special night. You are aware of how erratic these things may be." A shiver went through my body. "What are you saying?" "Oh, nothing, sweetheart," Sophia said. "Just that it would be unfortunate if, for example, the health inspector discovered any anomalies, or if there were unexpected problems with your liquor license." My heart felt icy. "Wouldn't I?" Sophia laughed as cold as ice. "Be very careful, Jessica. More than you realize, you need us." The call ended. I became motionless as the realization of her danger dawned on me. Chef Jake's worried tone brought me back to the present. "What's up?" he inquired. I faked a laugh. "Nothing. Now let's wrap things up." But my mind was racing as we worked. Was Sophia really going to ruin the opening? Would she really go that far? And how could I stop her if that's what she did? A few hours later, I was by myself in the dining area with the carefully arranged tables and the calming ambient lighting. My ambition had come true after years of sacrifice and extreme labor. And now, on the eve of realizing it, it all seemed to be sliding away from me. When the doorbell rang, I looked up to see Neil enter. His expression was one of guilt and worry. He began, "Jessica, we need to talk." I let out a sigh and felt all 38 of my years at once. "Neil, about what? Your falsehoods? The threats from your mother?" He winced. "Mom, she means well, but I know I messed up. She merely wants to help." I gave a sour laugh. "Help by threatening to ruin the introduction. A little assistance." Neil's eyes got bigger. "What?" She declined to— "Neil, wake up," I yelled. "Your mother is attempting to control us, to own us, and you're supporting her." Gazing lost, he ran a hand through his hair. "What do you need me to do?" I looked at him, truly looked at him, and for the first time I saw a scared boy still clinging to his mother's apron strings instead of the self-assured guy I'd fallen in love with. "Neil, I want you to make a choice," I muttered. "Either her or me. Either our lives or hers. Because I am no longer able to do this. I refuse to." Neil's expression twisted. "Jessica, please don't make me pick." "That's the problem, isn't it?" I said, scarcely raising my voice above a whisper. "You already have." I averted my gaze because I could take no more of him. "I think you should go, Neil," I said again, a stern tone in my voice. I exclaimed sharply, "Jonathan," into the phone as it connected. "It's Jessica. We must discuss your wife." A peculiar feeling of serenity enveloped me as I hung up. Not only was my restaurant opening tomorrow, but it also marked the start of my freedom. No matter what, I was determined to finish it. There was a noticeable sense of unease in the air on the night of the restaurant launch. Standing in the kitchen, I observed my staff members as they hurriedly got ready for the influx of guests. My hands trembled a little as I straightened my chef's coat despite my resolution. "Chef Jake," I exclaimed, "Sophia has arrived with her friends. They are requesting to be seated right away." I nodded, closed my eyes, and inhaled deeply. I'll handle it. Upon entering the dining room, I saw Sophia, beautiful in an extravagant gown, encircled by a group of women who were equally overdressed. Neil hung tensely by her side, appearing disoriented in his baggy outfit. Sophia's voice boomed out, sickeningly sweet. "Jessica, darling, we're just starving. I'm hoping you've got something really amazing in store for us." I forced a smile to appear. "Sophia, this way, please." I could feel my other guests' gaze on us as I escorted them to their table. This was hardly the opening night I had imagined. Sophia took a seat and waved her hand dismissively. "We'll have the chef's taster menu, of course, and make sure the wine is flowing smoothly." "I'll be delivering your first course soon," I said, attempting to remain calm. Sophia took hold of my wrist as I turned to walk away. "I just went ahead and invited a couple more people, Jessica. I really hope that won't be an issue." My phony smile failed. "How many more, Sophia?" With an airy laugh, she laughed. "Oh, only about 12. They are supposed to be here at any moment." I could feel my face's blood disappear. We were already full to capacity. We couldn't possibly have any more guests, much less serve them for free. "Sophia, we need to talk," I remarked in a hushed, menacing manner. I took her to a private area of the eatery, out of sight and hearing. "This is it now," I growled. "I won't have you ruining my opening night with your tricks." Sophia's eyes flickered menacingly. "Take caution, Jessica. You're not aware of my abilities." I shot back. "Oh, I think I do. You're not aware of this, though. I have copies of every financial document. Not a shred of your money is left anywhere, despite every pound going into this establishment." Sophia's expression twisted with anger. "You ungrateful little—" "Save it," I interrupted her. "This is what's going to happen. Just like everyone else, you and your pals will pay for your meals. And after tonight, you'll either keep out of my life and business, or I'll make sure everyone is aware of the true nature of you." Sophia stood for a while, enraged. Abruptly, she lifted her hand and gave me a forceful slap across my face. The eatery grew quiet. I could sense the tension, sharp enough to cut, and that everyone was watching us. With a burning sensation on my cheek and an unwavering resolve, I slowly turned around to face Sophia. "Go," I commanded in a quiet yet authoritative voice. "Every one of you, including your pals. Now leave my restaurant." As Sophia was about to object, Neil moved to stand next to her and put his hand on her arm. "Mom, I think it's time we leave." Neil glanced at me as they turned to leave. Our shared stare said so much. The restaurant was no longer the only factor in this. Everything is done now. And the truth of Neil's dishonesty weighed heavy on me. I collapsed into a chair with a whirlwind of emotions inside of me. The restaurant surrounding me felt like a trap closing in, whereas it had once been a ray of hope and aspiration. We had both been duped by Sophia's deceit, and I had failed to recognize Neil's dishonesty. I turned to my astounded crew and visitors after they had left. I took a deep breath, stood up straight, and said, "I'm sorry for disturbing you. Enjoy your evening. We'll cover the cost of the next round of drinks." I fled to the kitchen, my mind racing, while the gentle hum of talk began again. Although the battle was won by me, it was far from over. With the knowledge that nothing would ever be the same again, I picked up my knife and went back to my station. I was stunned by Sophia's abrupt departure, but I was pressed for time to come to terms with it. The restaurant was running smoothly, and I needed to concentrate on the kitchen. My thoughts raced over the possible consequences of what had just transpired as I plated dish after dish. After several hours, when the final visitor gradually left, I at last gave myself permission to exhale. The opening night had gone well, despite Sophia's best attempts to ruin it. But I knew that this wasn't the end. My phone buzzed, and it was Neil's text. We need to talk, as if on timing. I'm heading over. Sighing, I readied myself for yet another argument. Neil's expression, upon his arrival, was a mixture of bewilderment, outrage, and something approaching guilt. "Jessica, what the heck was that about?" he demanded. "How could you degrade my mother in such a way?" I chuckled sourly. "Neil, make her look bad? She attempted to ruin our first night. Are you concerned about her feelings because she intimidated me and tried to manipulate us?" Neil's expression twisted. "She was only attempting to assist, but now she won't pay for anything. What is the total amount of money we have lost?" My heart felt icy. "Neil, what do you mean, how much money have we lost?" He averted his gaze, reluctant to look me in the eye. "Mom's been paying for a lot of our bills, more than what I gave." The space felt like it was spinning. "Neil, how much more?" I asked. "Nearly everything," he exclaimed. "Everything from the equipment to the renovations to the first month's rent. We owe money. Jessica, up to our eyeballs. She's threatening to call it all now, too." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Everything I'd worked for, everything I'd sacrificed, it was all built on a lie. "Get out," I whispered. Neil looked stunned. "What?" "Get out," I screamed, my voice raw with emotion. As the door slammed behind him, I collapsed onto a chair, my mind reeling. How had I let things get this far? How had I been so blind? With shaking hands, I pulled out my phone and dialed Jonathan's number. I didn't care that it was late. Now was the time for this to finish. In response, a sleepy Jonathan said, "What's wrong, Jessica?" My voice was shaking from barely controlled fury. "Sophia is putting all of this at risk. Jonathan, I need your assistance. Please." A quiet silence ensued. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. As promised, Jonathan showed up to the restaurant looking bedraggled but awake. I hurriedly told him everything, including the debt we were drowning in and Sophia's threats and deceit. Jonathan listened in silence, the expression on his face getting gloomier by the minute. He sighed deeply and wearily when I was done. He said, "Jessica, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize things had become so awful. Sophia has always been cunning, but this is beyond unacceptable." "What actions are available for us to take?" I asked, wishing I didn't seem so desperate. Jonathan's resolve hardened his eyes. "Let me take care of it. Sophia and the money will be in my hands. You concentrate on keeping this place operational." "Why are you helping me?" I asked as he turned to go. With a melancholic grin, he hesitated at the entrance. "Because someone needs to step up to her, and because you remind me of myself many years ago, before I let Sophia take hold of everything." Jonathan departed, leaving me to sit by myself in the dimly lit cafe, surrounded by the ruins of my dream. I didn't know if the things I'd fought so hard for would hold together through the night. However, as I took in the spotlessly clean kitchen and the expertly arranged tables, a feeling of resolve began to grow within me. I'd be damned if I allowed Sophia or anybody else to take away my restaurant. This was my dream. I got up and went to get my phone, full of renewed resolve. Time to use fire to put out fire with fire. Sophia was going to have a war if that was what she wanted. I was nervous, but determined as ever when I showed up early at the restaurant the following morning. Just as I opened the door, I saw a modern black automobile arrive. With a firm yet somber expression, Jonathan emerged. "Jessica," he said in a hushed voice, "we must speak inside." Jonathan outlined the unpleasant facts of our predicament. Although Sophia's access to our accounts has been frozen, the harm has already been done. Not just for your restaurant, but for years she has been embezzling money. My heart fell. "How severe is it?" Jonathan looked directly into my eyes, sorrow and rage mixed together. "It's bad enough that our lawyer has been consulted, But I have that struggle ahead of me. We must prioritize rescuing your restaurant right now." The door sprang open at that moment. With her face twisted in fury, Sophia barged in, leaving Neil trailing behind her as if she were a lost puppy. She yelled, "How dare you!" at Jonathan, and interrupted me like a regular criminal. Jonathan stood up, sounding distant. "Sophia, you are exactly what I call a criminal, and it ends right now." Sophia's gaze flitted from Jonathan to me as she began to realize. She snarled at me, You made my husband dislike me." I refused to back down. "No, you accomplished that on your own." Neil moved forward, his expression pale. "Mom, what's the deal?" "What are they talking about?" Sophia lost her temper. "Darling, it's nothing. Simply a miscommunication." Jonathan cut her off abruptly. "Neil, your mother has spent years embezzling money. All of the money she said she invested in this restaurant was pilfered." Neil's expression twisted. "Is this true, Mom?" Jonathan produced a stack of documents as Sophia's denial was on her lips. "Everything is here, Neil. Every deal, every falsehood." Neil lowered his shoulders, taking in the facts. With beseeching eyes, he turned to face me. "Jessica, I assure you I was unaware. You must have faith in me." I was tempted to believe him, but his disloyalty was too great. "Neil, even if that's accurate, you still told me lies about the money and your job. How am I ever going to trust you again?" Seeing her world fall apart, Sophia tried one last desperate thing. "Jessica, sweetheart, I'm sure we can resolve this for the benefit of Neil and the family." I gave a sour laugh. "Is this what you refer to as a family?" "Not at all, Sophia. This concludes now." With my heart pounding but my mind made up, I turned to face Neil. "I am done with you. I need a divorce." The space became quiet. Neil's expression was a mix of disbelief and hurt as he glanced at me. "Please, Jessica, let's get this fixed." I gave a head shake. "No, Neil, we are unable to. It's finished." With a cry of helplessness, Sophia threw herself onto a chair. Jonathan tried to console her, but when the issue really hit home, his eyes grew icy. Neil's surprise gave way to rage. "You are to blame for this," he yelled at his mother. "You ruined everything." With her well-built world collapsing around her, Sophia wept. With a heavy sigh, Jonathan appeared every bit the 65 years old. "Jessica, let me handle this. You give attention to your eatery." I stood alone in the middle of my dream, feeling both free and afraid as Jonathan escorted Sophia and Neil out. I really did own the restaurant, but at what cost? With a look of worry on his face, Jake emerged from the kitchen. "Chef, how are you doing?" Standing up straight, I inhaled deeply. "I am not okay, Jake. However, I will be." With a fierce resolution in my eyes, I turned to face him. "We have to manage a restaurant. Now let's get to work." Upon entering the kitchen, I experienced a release of tension from my shoulders. Though the path ahead would be difficult, I felt free for the first time in years. Free from Neil's weakness, free from Sophia's manipulation, and free to make my own decisions. There were meals to make, employees to supervise, and a reputation to establish, all before the lunch rush arrived. However, when I fastened my apron and took up my knife, I was determined that I would meet any obstacles head-on and conquer them according to my own terms. Nothing would ever alter my life, my restaurant, or my regulations. It had been 5 years since that turbulent night when everything in my existence collapsed. I'm amazed at how far I've come, standing in the busy kitchen of my restaurant, which is now a well-known landmark in Connecticut. As would be imagined, the divorce from Neil was a mess. Though Sophia battled valiantly to undermine my reputation, Jonathan remained by my side, offering proof of her deceit. Ultimately, I left the restaurant with complete ownership and my dignity unharmed. The most difficult year was the first. It seemed like I was climbing a mountain with my hands tied when I had to rebuild my life and my company from the ground up. Nevertheless, I persisted, giving my task every bit of my ardor and resolve. I wake up from my trance to the sound of Chef Jake's voice, my executive main chef of choice now. The New York Times food critic has just arrived. I smooth down my chef's coat and take a big breath. All right, team. This is the goal we have been pursuing. Let's demonstrate to them our capabilities. As I supervise the creation of our tasting menu, my thoughts stray to Leo, my 3-year boyfriend. We bonded over heirloom tomatoes and handmade cheeses when we first met at a neighborhood farmer's market. His steadfast assistance and sincere affection have provided comfort to my wounded heart. After swinging open the kitchen doors, Leo enters carrying our daughter Emily. She always wants to help out in the kitchen, and at 3 years old, she is already displaying the makings of a future chef. Emily yells, "Mommy," and reaches for me. I pick her up and smell her sweet aroma. "What are the two of you doing here?" With sparkling eyes, Leo smiles. "We were unable to miss your special evening. In addition, someone kept insisting on wishing you luck." Emily gives my cheek a wet kiss. "Mom, good luck." A sensation of warmth fills my chest, a far cry from the continual tension and worry I had while married to Neil. This is the feeling of genuine family support. With a solemn expression, Jake approaches me as I return Emily to Leo. "Chef, there's a visitor in the dining room to see you." I head out of the kitchen, curious. When I notice it's Sophia who's waiting, my heart stops. She is more mature and reserved than I recall. She no longer exudes the same arrogance. Instead, she now has an almost regretful appearance. She whispers, "Jessica," scarcely raising her voice above a whisper. "I owe you an apology." I stand there speechless and stunned. Sophia keeps talking, her words flying out. "It was not forgiven what I did to you, Neil, or our family. I've been in therapy for the past 5 years, attempting to comprehend my actions. I need to let you know how sorry I am, even if I don't expect your forgiveness." I briefly travel back in time to that evening and experience all of the hurt and rage again. However, when I look at Sophia now, I see something. The influence she used to have over me has faded. I'm not that lady anymore, someone who would give up her aspirations in order to win the acceptance of others. "I appreciate you mentioning that, Sophia," I added in a firm voice. "Thank you for apologizing. I hope you've been able to find peace." With tears in her eyes, she nods and walks away. She stops as she approaches the door. "Your restaurant looks stunning. Jessica, you've done great. I'm proud of you, I really am." I'm left standing in the center of my flourishing restaurant, surrounded by the life I've created for myself. And then she's gone. Emily is in Leo's arms as he appears at my side. "Everything okay?" I glance at him, our daughter, and the busy eatery surrounding us. "Yes," I reply, my face lighting up with a smile. "Everything is perfect." I feel accomplished as we make our way back to the kitchen. Though the path has been difficult and replete with heartbreak and betrayal, it has brought me to this point in my life, this family that I have created for myself. A new chapter is about to begin. My team is prepared, and the critic is waiting. This time, though, I'm tackling it head on and have an unwavering support system of love around me. I take up my knife, put on my apron, and enter my territory. "All right, team, let's make some magic."